Generic greetings and welcome to Science Insanity, a channel dedicated to bringing my love of science fiction and all its often remarkable stupidity to you, the viewer. Along for the ride is Steve, sci-fi illiterate co-host and comedic relief. Say hello.
Hello.
He's the comedic relief, everybody. Today, we are covering the idealists, the wannabe right side of history, the holier-than-thou jerks, the wish I could have seen a blue-green Mars before they die, the belter-oppressing Martian supremacists, those duster losers and their society, with a nice focus on the dream of Mars and how it shaped that culture and ideas of the people living on the red planet. Are you ready to go, Steve? We're going back into the expanse.
Yeah, I think so.
Awesome. Hopefully I won't delete this one like I deleted the Belter the Belter video as well. We just have to make sure that this video is bad. If it's bad, I'll remember to not delete it. If it's good, it's going straight into the trash bin.
Watchers out there, just remember, if anything besides the reason that these videos are bad, he keeps deleting the good ones. Edit that down to make it sound intelligent.
I think we're up to a total of 5. So we're doing pretty good considering all the videos that have come out. 5 out of like 50 is pretty good, 10%.
It's a damn shame that 2 of those 5 were probably our best episodes yet.
Probably, yeah. And with that, wonderful, I cut off the intro partway through, so I'm probably going to edit this to make it seem better. But first, shameless shill. If you want to help out the channel to grow, like, sub, share, ring the bell button, all of that, since every little bit helps and is appreciated. And if you want to support us directly, check out our Patreon and buy me a coffee or feed Steve. And with that, let's get on to the video proper, shall we? So, Steve, do you know what we're going to be covering today? I gave it away like 2 minutes ago, but do you know specifically like what we're talking about? You want to take a guess?
Something about the expanse?
Something about the expanse, the red planet. We are going to be talking about Martian culture, why they are the way they are, why they seem to hate belters with a murderous passion, and what caused them to be the smuggest POSs that this universe has ever seen, and why they monologue about a green Mars every time they're about to die. Are you excited?
Yeah, I'd like to see a green Mars. Yeah.
I think it'll happen someday, but I think we really need to stop giving our trust to Elon. I don't think he's going to get it done for us. I would like to see a green Mars as well, though.
Who are we going to give our trust to? Psy? Shit, he'll just delete Mars.
If I had the power to delete Mars, you'd have to be worried about a lot more than just that. I promise you. I promise
I don't think
you.
so, but...
Oh, God. So... What do you know about the dream of Mars and the cultural views of the Martians from the Expanse? Like, what do you understand? Because I know you've seen part of the series, but you haven't gotten past like season 2 or whatever.
You're asking me to dig way back here because I was watching the series like as it was coming out.
Okay, fair enough. Goldfish memory?
No.
It's beyond like an hour ago. He can't remember it.
It's like 6 years old. Hello?
That sounds like a you problem or a skill issue.
2015, it's 8 years old!
That sounds like a you problem. That doesn't seem like an issue with me.
Probably is. But why is the show still going? What the hell?
There's like 3 books or something that haven't been adapted to screen yet. They could probably make like 5 more seasons before the show actually comes to an end. While for the most part, Mars and the Martians are a background decoration compared to the Belt, Protogen, Earth, the protomolecule, all that good stuff, Mars has a huge impact on the story in the background, and their culture is a super weird mix of old Earth ideas and a really, really toxic conflict between egotistical superiority and crippling fear. So let's start with arguably the most important keystone of what it means to be a Martian, the dream of Mars, or goddammit, I can finally breathe on this shithole of a planet. Do you know what I'm talking about, or do I just need to keep expositing?
Would that be a green Mars? I'm sorry. What is green Mars?
Half correct. What's that wonderful T word that you find in sci-fi? Come on, you know it.
Terraform.
Yes, that's the dream of Mars, to terraform the planet into a new Earth, a second Earth, a better Earth, because whatever the Martians do is just blatantly better than everyone else, so say them.
Do I get to know what's behind curtain number 3 now?
No, you don't.
Damn.
It was a new car, but you don't need to know that. Mars, for a very long time in the Expanse, and currently in the real world right now, is a dream for pretty much everyone alive that has an interest in sci-fi, the future, or the age of exploration that is long since past. The idea of settling a new planet, participating in the single greatest endeavor mankind has ever embarked on, giving reality itself the finger and bringing life to a barren world, it's a glorious idea. And in the Expanse, it's potentially real. Like all the other colonies across the solar system, multiple moons, asteroids, and the stations that made up Earth's early holdings, Mars was settled. Then the very best Earth had to offer went out to build a foundation for settlers in society and pathetic scum-sucking nobodies to come in afterwards. It was also a last desperate hope for the people living on Earth, at least a lot of them, to escape pretty much soul-crushing and permanent poverty. Do you remember the conditions of Earth, or do you want me to give you like a brief point-by-point overview?
I said let's do a brief point-by-point overview, just for those that might not have seen the series as well.
Oh, like you, okay. So, Earth is pretty much a shithole. Like, there is an unbelievable divide between the 1% and everyone else. There basically isn't a middle class anymore. And everyone lives on universal basic, which gives you food, money, drugs, just enough to keep you alive and not rebelling on the planet. Overpopulation is so massive that there's virtually no chance of ever climbing up from that terrible situation, and you're competing against literally billions of other people at the same point, where it's gotten so bad. There's literally a lottery now. You want to go to school, you want to do any of this, you have to actually win the lottery in order to get that opportunity.
Can we have a life lottery instead? Anyone that does not win just dies?
I don't think that would work. That would actually cause an uprising. Generally, conditions on Earth are not that great. So when Mars officially became a colony and it was opened for people to move there and start settling and start exploiting the planet for resources and industry and stuff, people wanted off Earth with a murderous passion. And unfortunately, because life isn't fair, random hicks and nobodies weren't allowed. It was the best of the best. Now, for the most part, they drew from all over the planet, but it was still like the actually qualified, actually competent people to go there and set up a new society on a new planet. The earliest colonies on the planet were, hilariously, by the way, based on real-life conditions and political issues, were from East India, China, and Texas. That's where the early settlers mostly came from, and they settled in the Mariner Valley. Do you know what that is?
Would it be the Valley of the Mariners?
It's a giant canyon like the Grand Canyon, but way bigger. Crosses like half the Martian equator, over 4,000 kilometers or something long. It's absolutely enormous. Puts any other geological land figure on Earth to shame. Now, at first, things were business as usual. The ties to Earth were still strong. The first and second generation of people that traveled to Mars and the first generation of people born there were fairly loyal. But quickly afterwards, things started to change when newer generations that were actually born there started asking questions about why they were beholden to Earth, or why they had put up with certain laws written on another planet. Basically, they're pulling an American Revolution. This was also tempered by the fact that Mars had little to no infrastructure built on it that they could use, and what little resources they had access to or could export / leverage were basically just sent straight back to Earth, just like all the other colonies that it had at this point.
Martian Revolution 2, Electric Boogaloo?
Seize the means of production. Mars begrudgingly stayed under Earth's thumb as its crown jewel colony for a while, but they started building up over time. They started creating shipyards and factories and even a naval academy, and Earth was very not okay about this, extremely not happy about this. In fact, several orders that basically said, you are not allowed to do this, Mars cannot build any more ships anymore, it's only happening on Earth, or where Earth demanded that all industry and shipyards on Mars just hit the pause button for like a year while they get a whole bunch of inspectors out there to inspect for safety violations and take over.
That fucking OSHA, man.
Space OSHA steals your factory. It doesn't improve working conditions.
You can never escape them, much like the IRS.
In response to all of this pressure from Earth, Mars just went, fuck it, and hung up the telephone and just stopped responding to whenever Earth sent messages and demands and orders and stuff to them. And this did not go over well. What do you think Earth's immediate reaction was?
You better answer this goddamn phone call right now, you little bitch, or else.
No, there was no or else. They sent a fleet of 40 warships with the intention of bombarding Mars back into nothing but dust and rock. And the only reason that they stopped and turned around when they were like 70% of the way there is because Mars basically kowtowed and were like, it's fine, let's chill out. We'll cool down, we'll agree to some of your stupid requests, we'll agree to pick up the phone again, please stop all of this. And Earth begrudgingly was like, okay, fine, we gotta go blow up some belter stations because they're rebelling as well, and It's more fun to kill people in space than it is on a planet because it's easier to hide the bodies. So we're going to leave you alone for now. And Earth kind of pissed off to go do its own thing for a few more years.
See, the or else was definitely there. They had just already sent it.
Pretty much. That's surprisingly accurate. That first event was barely avoided by Mars, and this kind of made them paranoid. It did not go over well because now it was blatantly obvious that if Mars didn't fall into line, Earth was going to remove them off reality. They were going to consign the Martian population to the past tense, scratch their numbers out of the phone book. It just got worse from here because a number of revolutionaries basically kept pushing, releasing manifestos calling for the independence of Mars, saying that Earth had no jurisdiction here, demanding full independence as their own nation, state / government, whatever. Earth did not react well to this. What do you think their immediate reaction was?
I don't think there was a reaction. I think they just took it all laying down.
No, there was a reaction. They sent an even bigger fleet the second time, and this time, Earth hung up the phone instead, and they're like, well, we tried the carrot, time for the stick, and they were going to obliterate Mars.
Your call has been disconnected.
Your collect call has been terminated for being an insubordinate little bitch. Please hold still while the authorities make it to you. So, this would have been the end of Mars. There's some revisionist history in the actual Expanse series, along with some fans that don't quite really understand what was happening here. There's this perception that it was like a trade where Mars would give Earth some technology and help them catch up, and Earth would give them their independence, but that's not what happened. Earth was 110% willing, ready, and about to obliterate the colony. Like, they were going to take it by force.
The trade deal is you receive all these missiles, I receive you being dead.
You receive these nuclear weapons, I receive your corpse. Best trade deal you're gonna get. The only thing that stopped Mars from being completely genocided out of reality is the fact that Solomon Epstein accidentally invented the modern-day drive that most of the ships use. Multiple times more powerful than the current ship engines, several times more fuel efficient, and capable of operating at much, much higher thrust for extended periods of time. This would essentially open up the rest of the solar system for human colonization, because up until this point, it could take up to a year to get people from Earth to Mars. It took a very long time, which is part of the reason why Mars was so willing to rebel, because they're like, oh, it's going to take the Earthers like fucking forever to get over here. Who cares? Just go ahead and ignore them. What are they going to do? And then as the fleet was en route, they had like 9 months to watch death approaching, and that cooled their jets pretty fast.
I would imagine such things would hamper someone's expectations and stuff.
To watch the wrecking ball flying straight towards your face in slow motion and not being able to get out of the way, bit of an oof. So what the Martians did was they offered Earth a deal. They basically said, I will give you the Epstein drive.
Obligatory Epstein joke.
Obligatory Epstein joke. And in exchange, you will fuck off, and Mars gets to be independent, and we don't have to do this whole murder genocide thing, and you just leave us alone. And Earth was like, no, that's a terrible deal. But then they thought about it for a few seconds, and they realized, wait a minute, hold on, I could get across the whole solar system, and I'm the only one that has a fleet. All the proto-belters are still technically my indentured servants who can't do anything, and Mars is just a shithole with no shipyards and nothing that they can possibly stand up to me with. Hold on, there's a goddamn gold rush here. And basically Earth realized they could take over the entire solar system in a new gold rush to the outer planets and the asteroid belt and the Kuiper belt beyond that, and basically take over all of the valuable resources the solar system had right at their fingertips. So agreeing to the deal, Mars gets its independence, and Earth immediately jumps into oppressing the Belters even harder and expanding rapidly across the solar system. Which is why, in the expanse of the day, like the vast majority of the solar system is owned by Earth. It's something like 2/3 Earth, 1/3 Mars, and then like 10% the Belters trying to steal from the other two factions.
That math ain't math in there, bud.
Yeah, no, that's because, again, that's what I said. The Belters are trying to steal 10% from, like, everybody else, but it's not working too well for them. At least not until way, way later into the story. This is really important to cover, though, for the history of Mars, because it basically explains why they are so rabidly militaristic compared to most of the other factions, and why they have just the biggest hate boner imaginable for Earth. Mars as a culture was basically in the situation where you listen to what Daddy Earth says, or you get the belt at mock Jesus straight to your face, or you've stopped obeying, now you're gonna die, and the only way to get out of it was to give the only significant advantage that they had ever had, which was the Epstein drive. And this basically put a huge chip on their shoulder. Mars never really recovered culturally from this, and they've been living under this shadow, this almost Cold War era mentality of us or them. That at any point, Earth is going to obliterate Mars straight off of this universe, just yeet them off the mortal coil if they step out of line. So they spent decades building up one of the biggest military, well, I say biggest, quote unquote, Earth outnumbers them like 3-1 or something like that. For the size of population they have, proportionally.
One of the biggest.
Proportionally to industry and population size, the biggest military in the expanse. They invested a huge amount of resources into more advanced technology and making a more advanced military as well. Unfortunately, this is where a big part of that, how should I put it, cultural blinders, like I mentioned earlier, really comes into play. Because you see, they wanted to terraform Mars, and that takes a huge amount of resources. And that's what the entire culture is there for. Everyone on Mars is there because they want to make a new Garden of Eden. That's what the entire purpose of colonizing Mars was. But now, as an independent society, they're in a position where they need a military, or there's a very good chance that the next conflict, they're just getting wiped out. So what do you think happened? Like, what culturally, what shift do you think happened on Mars because of these events?
Definitely wasn't a militaristic regime or anything. No, couldn't have.
Well, it's too bad you didn't say definitely would have been a militaristic regime, because that's exactly what happened.
Nah, you're kidding. It had to be anything but that. There's no way a military regime existed with that.
So because of the massive shift from their humanitarian, egalitarian, like truly great work-focused project of terraforming Mars over to this far more militaristic need to survive and compete with Earth, in many cases, the dream of Mars died at this moment because they basically put the terraforming project on hold. What you see happening in the show is the pathetic last dregs of the program crawling along at a snail's pace, and all of the resources and industry and money and time that Mars has basically gone into the military for the last several decades since this event happened, as they try to build up and they try to guarantee their security, viewing Earth as this existential threat. In many ways, this has created like an incredibly angry subset in Martian culture, like an undertone of rage towards Earth, because as far as the Martians see it, Earth basically forced them to burn their future so that their present could survive. And that's a really easy way to piss off an entire culture.
I don't know, man. I don't think I would be too pissed off at that. I'm just built different, I guess.
I guess, yeah. You were meant to be a peasant. I guess that boot on the back of your head feels pretty good then, huh?
I mean, you've trained me pretty well.
That was so much better of a response than I thought you would give. Oh, that gets to stay in. Congratulations. That was really funny. This is where we really see like modern Martian culture come in. And it's also why that stupid, goddamn incessant, I wish I could have seen a green Mars, and the stupid shit from the show comes in, where every single Martian that we see die on screen, like basically every single one, goes, oh, I wish I could have seen a blue Mars, oh, I wish I could have seen life on Mars, oh, I wish I could have seen a blue sky on Mars, and then they die. Every single one of them. They're just constantly, incessantly. This comes from that, like, feeling of having that future stolen from them, feeds into the militarism and the anger. One character, Bobby Draper, basically exemplifies this perfectly. She says the quiet part out loud, which is basically like, oh, we should start a war with Earth. We need to destroy their navy. Maybe a fight is exactly what we need, you know? The old ways are done. That kind of mentality we should throw down with Earth. permanently remove the threat that they pose to us so we can finally get back to terraforming. There's this huge subset of Martian culture and a kind of split between the military and civilians where a lot of the more civilian and peaceful parts of Martian society want to focus on the terraforming. That's like the entire purpose of their society. But the military and the industrial complex that supports it are extremely into a fight with Earth. They're like gearing up to throw down. Mars's entire military doctrine is, how do we fight numerically vastly superior UNN fleets and win? How do we eventually reduce the force comparison to the point where they are no longer a threat to us? That's like their whole shtick. That's the baseline of Martian culture. However, that creates a few issues in the decades that have followed. Would you like to take a wild guess at what happened to the average view of your average Martian because of this?
The average view of the average Martian, they've become more and more distant from their militaristic government to the point where there's a Great Schism.
No. Well, yes, but that happens way later. Way later. That's the death of the Martian dream. For now, though, racism. Massive amounts of racism.
Count me in. But
so culturally, this conflict between what the average, societal dream, what the impetus behind Martian culture is, what they feel like they're forced to do, this has created huge conflict in their society. And you're right, there are two ways that they can go about doing this. Number one is to fall apart, and that happens later on, which we'll get into when different factors are introduced. But the other option is to band together against a perceived other, to fight against an enemy. And that's one of the things that Mars has constructed. Earth realistically isn't looking for a fight with Mars. Earth is going to fight Mars if they feel like their colonial possessions are threatened, or they feel like Mars is muscling in on what Earth considers its property. But for the most part, they're not out looking for a fight with Mars. Earth would much rather just maintain its beautiful little collection of moons and stations and asteroids and keep sucking all of the wealth and prosperity from the Belters for the next 500 years. That's what they want to do. But Mars is responding to this existential threat, like we've said, and to unify their culture, they've started inventing all of these technically correct straw man ideas that are demonstrably untrue and completely misrepresent what's going on. For example, we talked about the terrible conditions on Earth, right? Do you want to know how the Martians view that?
Like they're scum. I don't know.
Yes, but the way that they look at it is sort of like, they look at it and they don't see it as a systemic failure, which is what it is. Earth is overpopulated. There's too many people. There aren't enough resources on the planet to support everybody. That's part of the reason why Earth is so colonial, why they're constantly out there trying to hoard all the resources. Another big reason is just power and stuff, but that's every government, so because of that massive overpopulation, Earth can't afford to give everybody everything. If they went to the old capitalist system of you get what you work for, like half the people on Earth would die. That's not feasible. It just can't happen. It would be anarchy. So what happens, the only possible way that Earth can survive is by providing everybody enough resources to live on and potentially have kids with, and then just leaving them to their own devices with recreational drugs and basic healthcare and all of this universal basic income that just keeps people from dying. It's a pathetic existence, but it's literally the only thing keeping Earth alive at this point from descending into a civil war. The Martians don't see it like that. They've created Earth as the other, the enemy. So what they've done is, in the words of Bobby Draper again, aren't suffering from systemic or situational issues that are bankrupting their country or planet, whatever. They are simply weak, pathetic people who don't deserve the wealth they have. It's not because they're unfortunate or unlucky. They're lazy, they're stupid, they're undeserving of everything they've been given. Sound familiar to some of the more extreme ideologies that have cropped up there?
I will not comment.
It's a little fucked when you really dig into it. Again, a huge part of that is because Mars is terrified of Earth. They've turned them into the bad guy, the other. And so for a lot of Martians, especially in the military, anything they see going on, they can't simply explain it away with reality or with decency or trying to view it through the other person's eyes. No, Earthers are terrible people. They're degenerate, they're losers, they're filthy, lazy, abusive, drug-addicted, subhumans, basically. Common idea in Martian society is that Earth had its heyday. Earth was a glorious planet, and they've ruined it all, taken everything that they got for granted and pissed on it, and now it's Mars's job to save the future before Earth ruins that too. That's really common. One of the characters in the first 3 episodes of the show, he's a Martian intelligence agent. He interrogates the crew of the Rocinante after they're attacked by the stealth ships on the Donager. And he basically insults James Holden, whatever. The comments will crucify me if I got his names wrong. Jay Holden.
That guy with the Holden with his last name.
Yeah, something like that, right? Basically drag this guy over the coals about, Earth has destroyed this, you've abused this, that, whatever. I'd love to see a green Mars, because they can't stop saying it. They cannot stop saying that stupid phrase. It's genuinely, when you look back, it's genuinely kind of uncomfortable to how the Martians treat all the other people that aren't them. And this extends arguably even worse to the Belters. Do you want to take a wild guess at how they treat the Belters?
We already established that they're basically target practice. But I'm going to say slaves. That's the best kind of correct, technically.
I want to clear it up for all the people watching as well who might really be fans of Mars, because they are a really cool faction, but we have to understand and establish here, everybody in the Expanse, all the major factions, are super racist. Every single one of them. They look at the different groups of humans, the Belters, Martians, Earthers, and they are just discriminatory, right? And every single faction is like that. None of them are good, none of them are bad, but it comes in different forms. For Earth, it's that old money 1% kind of way where it's like, we're better than you by birth and pedigree. We have all the money, we have all the power. You should be thankful to lick our boots, and you should thank us afterwards, right? That's the way Earth.
Of course.
That's how Earth kind of treats everybody, right? I'm sure everyone can understand that. For Mars, or for the Belters, I should say first, it's more of that, we're hard, you're soft mentality. We're the salt of the earth. We're the hard workers. We built everything that you take for granted. You don't deserve it. We're better than you. And if we get the chance, we'll kill you and live a better life. That's how a lot of Belters look at things, right? They look at the Inners as pathetic, weak, soft, undeserving of space. A lot of Belters think that space itself belongs to them, not the Inners. For the Martians, it's being better than everybody. They look at the Earthers we talked about with disgust and scorn, but that's because they view themselves as more hardworking, more intelligent. The nature of being Martian makes you better than everybody else. You are destined for greater things because you are Martian. Once again, really fucked when you take a step back and think about it, but it's also not wholly undeserved. Because of how brutal life on Mars was, they had to be really, really good at what they did. They had to be really clever. They had to be really smart. They had to be really industrious, or they would have died. And unfortunately, when it comes to the Belters, who either mostly serve Earth and its corporations, or are independent but still resource producers, the only experience Mars really has with the Belt is pirates and smugglers. So they view them as a whole as disposable criminals. To your average Martian Navy officer, or just average Martian in general, and again, there's no polite way to say this, they kind of look at the Belters the way that, racist Americans would look at anybody from the Middle East. They're terrorists and scum, and they should just blow them up and be done with it. It's not so cool. So, whereas Earth might treat them as property, Mars just prefers to remove the Belters. Just get them out of our space and leave them to be the problem of Earth, basically. They are not a pretty okay society, and they are, for the most part, surviving only by discrimination and dreams. That's literally the only things that are keeping Martian society going, because now, we'll talk a little bit about how the dream of Mars died. You mentioned it earlier. Do you want to guess how?
The Great Schism.
Oh, you're very close. What happens because of the protomolecule? What does it create?
The huge divide between the ideologies of the two factions, which leads to a war amongst themselves. therefore tearing down all of Martian society.
Oh my god, the proto-molecule is one of the videos that we did an episode on. I had to delete it because it got the channel copyright struck, but come on, you have to remember this. What did the
It was one of the 5.
What did the proto-molecule create, Steve? Come on.
Protoforms.
Oh my god. Do you actually not know?
Mayhaps.
Are you trolling me right now, or are you just actually... Okay.
I could very well be trolling you.
You're not trolling me, you have no idea what's going on, you're just playing along to try to be funny for the audience. So, the proto-molecule created the ring gates, introduced humanity into ring space, and then once all the other rings opened up when they found the key to the intergalactic door, there were thousands of planets, habitable, suitable for human life, within a similar size to Earth and Mars, that were alive, that had life and atmospheres and a biosphere that was capable of being terraformed for fractions of what it would cost to do on Mars for a fraction of the time. What do you think happened once all of these people found out all of these extra planets were out there? That dream of colonizing new worlds, what do you think happened to Mars?
Well, considering they were already in a military dictatorship, it has to be the former.
Well, for the most part, yeah, Martian society all but collapsed. Before, it was corrupt. Like, don't get me wrong, there was a lot of stuff wrong with Mars well before they decided, or well before everything kind of went to shit. Like arms dealing, backdoor trading, corruption at the highest levels, people using their power for bad. Like Martian society is not super chill from the highest to lowest levels. But once this happened, the glue that was in many ways holding Martian society together, that dream of a habitable Mars, a new Earth, it died. Thousands, tens of thousands of people all over Mars gave up on the dream and they left. They joined up with flotillas of ships from the belt and from Earth that were waiting at the ring gate to try to make it onto a new world, to start colonies where they could simply land on a planet, build a home, and live with a breathable atmosphere and start building a future. They abandoned Mars as the dead world it was and left. Many of the people in command and control took this as an opportunity to seize their own petty kingdoms. The officers that had the power took entire fleets of ships and basically fucked off beyond the ring system to a new world to establish their own kingdoms. The Laconian Empire, which pops up way later, and I think there isn't actually like too many episodes on it in the show. This is like in the books. But the Laconian Empire is a bunch of Martians under an admiral that basically found a planet and they were like, this is my kingdom now. This is my world. Everyone else can stay on the other side of the ring gate. And the officers and stuff that couldn't do that started cannibalizing the Martian Navy, selling weapons and parts and stuff to the Belters, to the Free Navy, the terrorist version of the Belters, the ultra extreme extremists, and just building whatever wealth and corruption and power that they could in a system that was falling apart. This shows how fragile Martian society was. They were built more on an idea and a fear of outside threats than they were a truly stable base. And a lot of their misconceptions, like we're stronger, we're more creative, we're more industrious, we're more deserving of, it fell apart immediately because huge parts of their society just took the easy way out and left as soon as they got the chance.
And they called Earth weak and lazy.
Well, I mean, Earth was dealing with its own problems around this point. They actually had an issue where there were so many civilians rushing to get to these new worlds that they were like swarming the ring. They had to shoot some of them down or like board them and stuff because there were so many of these ships that were basically just YOLOing out into this alien hellscape that the proto-molecule is curating. This, in many ways, is the death of the dream of Mars, and we get to see it through the eyes of Bobby Draper as she sees a lot of the people whom she thought, would stick by Mars forever just give up. Civilians, workers, engineers, scientists, they just abandoned her home. And then she learns that there are Martians, ex-Navy officers and stuff, selling weapons. And when she brings it to the authorities, the first thing that the authorities ask her is, could you do it again? Can you sell more weapons and maybe cut me in on the trade? I can leave some stuff out that's easy for you to get. And being the idealist she is, Bobby Draper was horrified by this, but you're literally watching your entire society crumble around you. It's gotta be pretty terrible.
We may or may not be witnessing that right now. That's enough of politics for this episode. That's a me and Sai discussion for later on.
Later on is War Thunder, good sir, because I have like 3 days of premium to use and I want to get the most out of it.
No way. You should play with some of the people on the server.
Do you want to play War Thunder after this then?
Not particularly, but we can.
Well, you're on the server, so there you go, whatever. But yeah, that pretty much covers most of what it means to be Martian. We didn't touch too much on the intricacies of their culture because there, A, isn't a super huge amount of it, and B, it's mostly this kind of intellectual, cultural, nebulous garbage anyways, so that pretty much covers it. The dream of Mars, what it means to be a Martian, what their society is like, and their problems and issues along with their strengths and weaknesses. So what do you think? Do we think they're good people? I think they're very cool, but not very good people.
I think they're the best people in the universe.
You're just saying that because you hate Belters.
I can neither confirm nor deny.
All right. Well, anything else you'd like to add before
I plead the fifth.
Anything else you'd like to add before I do the outro?
No.
To all the patrons and everybody supporting Science and Sanity, thank you very much. It's greatly appreciated. With a special thanks to all of the members of the $5 tier, feeding my co-host Steve, keeping him alive, and hopefully preventing me from deleting any more videos. David G, the original, Augie, 11 Brova Crunchy, Terry Higgins, Pedro Munaz, David G, the other one, Silencer, Vox Apollyon, Phoenix, BT Legend, Electroboy 11, Logan Maynard, Mickey, David Armand, Creedome, Robin Stapp, Infinite Striker, Tachi Tukane, He's Deb, Pixie, Vertus, Fabric 445, Anchovy Bob, Mini Crustacean, Charles the Snap, Polly, Eric Jones, Joseph Holiday, Zombie the Zerker, David B, and Sweet B. Thank you very much for your support. We appreciate it greatly. And with that, the video is functionally over.
Wait. Did I hear a David B in there as well now?
Yes, you did. He's been there for like
All right, that's it.
2 weeks,
We've reached
3
our
weeks.
capacity on David's.